Most rappers leave. The moment the checks clear and the cameras start following them around, they are gone. Out to LA, Atlanta, New York, they trade the city that built them for a zip code that feels more like success. But every now and then somebody flips that script so completely, so deliberately, that the city they stayed in starts feeling like something they personally own. And right now in Texas, that somebody has a name, Sauce Walka. And what he has quietly assembled behind the scenes is the kind of mind-blowing operation that makes people stop and say, wait, how did one independent rapper turn Houston into his personal empire? Yo, what is good, fam? And welcome back, because today we went deeper than the music, deeper than the flexes, deeper than the highlights you already saw on your timeline. We dug into the businesses, the properties, the cars, the income streams, and the infrastructure that made people across Houston start saying he owns this city. And what we found is bigger than most people expected. This is inside Sauce Walka's mind-blowing Texas empire. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into this wild ride, let me keep it 100 with y'all. There's been a lot of talk about Sauce Walka online. People throwing around numbers speculating about what he actually owns versus what is just image. But yo, we about to separate the facts from the fiction, the real from the fake. Because when you actually dig into what this man has built and said publicly about his own operation, what you find is not just a music career that got big. You find a strip mall in Houston with his name on it. You find a strip club he just opened. You find a dispensary with over 20 locations. You find an OnlyFans operation that paid him more than an NFL wide receiver. And that is just the start. The shocking truth about what Sauce Walka has built is more layered than anyone on the outside ever imagined, and we are about to reveal all of it. So check it. To understand what Sauce Walka built, you have to go back to where he started. Born Albert Walker Mondane on June 29, 1990, he grew up on the southwest side of Houston, Texas, inside one of the most culturally specific music scenes in the entire country. He started rapping in 2007 under the name A-Walk as part of a Houston group called Most Heard. But the real chapter that changed everything began in 2014. That is the year he dropped his first projects as Sauce Walka, formed the duo Sauce Twins alongside Sancho Saucy, and founded the Sauce Factory, the independent label that would become the backbone of everything he built after. 2014, 1 year. 3 moves that set the entire machine in motion. Now in Houston hip-hop, we know that 2014 was also the year the culture started paying serious attention to what was coming out of the southwest side. And Sauce Walka was sitting right at the center of it. His energy was undeniable. That raw, unfiltered, unapologetically Houston delivery that did not sound like Atlanta, did not sound like New York, did not sound like anything being pushed on mainstream radio. It sounded like the southwest side of Houston, and it resonated immediately with people who had been waiting for exactly that. He is also publicly credited with popularizing the word drip in modern hip-hop. Soulja Boy himself confirmed it, going on record to say the person on the forefront with it was Sauce Walka and TSF. That kind of cultural fingerprint does not happen by accident. It happens when somebody is genuinely setting trends rather than following them. But here is where it gets real. While other artists were chasing label deals and hoping somebody in a suit would come validate their career, Sauce Walka was building infrastructure. The Sauce Factory, founded in 2014, became the umbrella for everything. The label signed Peso Peso, Rizzo, Fifth Ward JP, Sancho Saucy, Raji Diego, and Say So P. Each one of those artists represents a revenue stream, a creative asset, and a piece of the TSF brand that extends the label's presence beyond just one person's music. And Sauce Walka's quote about independence from his recent XXL Talk It Up interview says everything about the mindset behind all of it. He said, and I quote, "It do feel good to achieve it independently instead of the other way, because it is a longer journey that you retain more ownership in the end." Then he followed that up by saying he is more interested in the profits than the accolades. That is not artist talk. That is businessman talk. Let me break down for y'all exactly how the income stacks up, because this is where the real picture starts coming into focus, and where most people who are not paying close attention get completely lost. Let's start with music. Sauce Walka has released over 20 mixtapes and multiple albums, including Splat Mafia, Chicken and Sauce, 88 Boys, and Sauce Father 2, which dropped in 2024 with features from Travis Scott, Lil Yachty, and Rizu. His catalog is available across every major streaming platform, and because he operates independently, the recording royalties from every single stream flow back to him rather than to a label recouping in advance. In 2026, his track Stop Snitching with A$AP Rocky landed on the Billboard Hot 100, debuting at number 62, his first Hot 100 placement. Achieved independently, without a major label machine behind it. Let that sink in for a minute. Performance income is another serious layer. Sauce Walka has a live following in Texas that is as loyal as it gets, and that loyalty translates directly into booking fees. Headlining appearances in Houston, Dallas, and across the Texas circuit, combined with festival dates and out-of-state shows, put consistent money into the operation year over year. Beyond ticketed shows, the TSF brand opens doors to private events, brand appearances, and hosting deals that never show up on a streaming chart but generate real income at the business level. Now this is where we got to address the income stream that nobody expected to become one of his biggest: OnlyFans. Sauce Walka has been publicly managing content on OnlyFans for years, and in April of 2026, he posted a screenshot of his earnings statement to Instagram that showed he had earned $6.2 million from just one account over 7 years. One account. He also stated publicly that he manages 12 accounts total. His caption on that post was direct. He said, "I made more money off OnlyFans than an NFL wide receiver." And he noted that the 6.2 million figure was for one account alone. Earlier, in May of 2023, he had already shown screenshots revealing $1 million made across 2 accounts over 4 years. The trajectory on that income stream has been moving in one direction only. That is a revenue model that most artists have not figured out, and Sauce Walka built it into a multi-million-dollar operation while his peers were still treating it as a side experiment. Then there is Sauce Walka Gear, his clothing line which monetizes the visual brand he has spent years building in the public eye, and Ski Taste, his own product line that includes his signature sodas, and his plushie toy line, and a hip-hop video game that he is currently developing as lead creator, which is set to feature Lil Durk, Kodak Black, and Key Glock as playable characters. These are not ideas. These are publicly announced, publicly discussed business ventures that represent Sauce Walka thinking about revenue in ways that most artists simply do not. The real kicker, though, is the physical footprint he has built in Houston, because this is where the empire becomes something you can actually walk up to and touch. And I want to be specific here because the details matter. In mid-2025, Sauce Walka publicly announced that he owns a strip mall at 1419 South Loop West in Houston, Texas. He posted about it himself, calling it Codeine Corner. Inside that strip center, he has built out multiple businesses operating under the same roof. Sauce Factory Studios, his professional recording studio, is in there. A 24-hour tire shop is in there. A THC Club location, his THCA dispensary partnership is in there. And a restaurant he recently opened is also part of the property. When you own the building, you own the businesses inside it, and the income from each of those operations feeds back into the same ecosystem. That is not a music career. That is a commercial real estate portfolio generating multiple revenue streams from a single asset. But here is where it gets even more layered. The THC Club dispensary partnership is not limited to that one location. Sauce Walka has publicly stated he has over 20 dispensary locations operating under the TACA model, with one location confirmed at 14725 Katy Freeway in Houston. 20 locations of a cannabis dispensary business in a state where that market is expanding rapidly. That is a franchise-level operation that most independent artists have never come close to building. And then there is Splash House. In December of 2024, Sauce Walka publicly revealed and opened Splash House, his own strip club in Houston. The reveal went viral almost immediately, generating massive buzz in the city and beyond. A strip club in a major city like Houston, in a nightlife market that runs every single week of the year, generates consistent recurring revenue that is entirely separate from music, streaming, merchandise, and everything else. Combined with his boxing gym, which has been reported as part of his business portfolio, and the retail store operation he runs, Sauce Walka has built a Houston business ecosystem that generates income across entertainment, hospitality, retail, cannabis, food, and digital content simultaneously. Now let's talk about what people mean when they say Sauce Walka owns Houston, because this is where it goes beyond a list of businesses and into something that is culturally deeper. He does not literally own the city. But when an independent rapper from the Southwest Side builds a strip mall, opens a strip club, runs 20 dispensary locations, has a recording studio with his name on it, and is still making music that lands on the Billboard Hot 100, the word ownership starts to feel accurate in every way that matters. The street's been talking about this for years. The visibility is everywhere, the brand is everywhere, and the investment is real, documented, and public. Houston has always understood this kind of ownership because the city has a tradition of it. Jay Prince built Rap Alive Records into a genuine institution from inside Houston without ever needing the validation of a coastal market. That model proved to an entire generation that independence and scale were not opposites. Sauce Walka is that philosophy in its current form. He even said it himself on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast with Gilly and Wallow, telling them directly, "I own a lot of companies that people do not even know that I own." That line says everything. The public image is already impressive. The private operation is bigger. Now let's get into the lifestyle piece, because this is the part that the internet never gets tired of, and the part that built the visual brand that makes all the business activity feel legendary rather than corporate. The Sauce Walka aesthetic is a specific, deeply Texas flavor of wealth with its own visual codes, and nobody in Houston presents it more consistently. Cars first, because in Houston, cars are identity. His collection is not just expensive, it is curated. Publicly documented vehicles include a 1960 Cadillac Eldorado, which is a piece of automotive history that connects directly to the Houston slab tradition, a Mercedes-Maybach S650, a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, which is one of the most expensive SUVs on the planet, a Lamborghini Urus, a Bentley Bentayga, a Rolls-Royce Wraith, a McLaren 720S with its twin turbocharged V8 pushing over 700 horsepower, a Bentley Continental GT, a Mercedes-Benz S65, and a 2021 Cadillac Escalade. He himself posted to Instagram saying his car collection needs a documentary. And honestly, looking at that list, he is not wrong. That is not a car collection. That is a museum on wheels sitting in Houston, Texas. For y'all who might not understand why jewelry hits different in this context, let me explain. In Southern hip-hop culture, jewelry is not decoration, it is documentation. It marks moments and milestones in a way that is immediate and visual. Sauce Walka's most publicly noted piece is a custom Cuban chain that he had made by Houston-based jeweler Johnny Dang, one of the most respected names in hip-hop jewelry, for which he paid $500,000. One chain, $500,000, made in Houston by a Houston jeweler. Even the way he spends is rooted in the city. His fashion operates the same way. He has publicly stated that Houston was not a fashionable city until the Sauce came through, claiming credit for introducing high-end fashion to the Houston scene in a way that influenced how the city's artists present themselves. Whether you agree or not, the fact that he was saying it with confidence on a major podcast and nobody challenged this seriously tells you everything about the credibility he has built in his own ecosystem. His personal style, designer pieces, custom fits, and intentional presentation have made him one of the most visually recognizable figures in Houston rap for years. Now this is where we got to address how he actually lives day to day, because the business and the lifestyle are not separate conversations for Sauce Walka. They are the same conversation. He is physically present in Houston in a way that makes the empire feel real rather than just digital. The strip center at 1419 South Loop West is not a passive investment sitting somewhere while he lives somewhere else. It is an active operation in his city with his studio, his businesses, and his brand embedded in it. When Splash House opened, he was there. When the dispensary locations open, his name is on them. The presence is constant and it is intentional. A real question people always ask about artists who build this kind of operation is whether the lifestyle spending is sustainable against the business income, or whether the flexes are bigger than the foundation. But here's where it gets interesting. When your OnlyFans alone has pulled $6.2 million from one account, when you own the building your studio is in, when you have 20 dispensary locations generating revenue, when your label roster includes Peso Peso, who built a genuine independent following of his own, and when you are landing on the Billboard Hot 100 independently in 2026, the foundation is not a question. The flexes are just the marketing department doing its job. Let me talk about why this model beats the traditional label path. because this comparison is the one that really makes Sauce Walka's choices look like genius in hindsight. A standard major label deal in the mid-2010s for an artist at Sauce Walka's level would have looked something like this: a $2 to $5 million advance that is fully recoupable, 15 to 20% of net recording royalties after recoupment, zero publishing ownership, zero master ownership, label controls release schedules, creative direction, and marketing spend. And if the commercial numbers do not satisfy the label in the first album cycle, you get dropped, still unrecouped on paper with no catalog to show for it. Real talk, there are artists who have had songs that millions of people remember, who toured arenas, who were household names for a moment, and who are technically still in debt to a label today because the recoupment math never resolved in their favor. That is the system Sauce Walka chose not to participate in. By staying independent, keeping his masters, running his own label, controlling his publishing, and building physical businesses in Houston on top of the music, he created a structure where every income stream works for him permanently rather than working for a label until it is paid back. The independent artist who owns everything and generates $3 million keeps $3 million minus operational costs. The label artist who generates $10 million might walk away with less than $1 million after the label takes its share and recoups its advance. At the end of the day, what Sauce Walka's story is really about is not just one rapper's portfolio. It is about a proof of concept that independence combined with genuine community investment, combined with a brand strong enough to carry real commercial weight across music, real estate, nightlife, cannabis, digital content, merchandise, and consumer products simultaneously, can produce something that no single label deal could have created. He built it from 1419 South Loop West outward. He built it from the southwest side of Houston outward. He built it with his name on the building, his face on the brand, and his money staying in the city that made him. The real question now is what the next chapter looks like. The video game drops with Lil Durk, Kodak Black, and Key Glock as playable characters, and suddenly TSF has a presence in gaming. The dispensary network at 20+ locations keeps growing in a market that is expanding. Splash House establishes itself as a Houston nightlife institution. The catalog keeps generating passive income permanently. The OnlyFans operation keeps running 12 accounts. And whatever companies people do not even know about yet, the ones he mentioned on the podcast, those are sitting quietly in the background compounding. The machine is already built. It is already running. And the most interesting part of Sauce Walka's Texas empire might not have happened yet. What do y'all think about what this man has put together in Houston? Drop it in the comments right now because I genuinely want to know what you see when you look at this operation. And click the video on screen for more deep dives into how the biggest names in hip-hop are actually building their money. We go deep on this channel. Stay locked in. Now let's zoom out for a second and really sit with what the TSF roster means as a business asset, because this piece of the empire does not get enough attention. When Sauce Walka signed Peso Peso to the Sauce Factory, he was not just adding an artist to a lineup. Peso Peso went on to build a genuine independent fan base with millions of streams and a following that extended well beyond Houston. Every stream Peso Peso generates, every show he plays, every merchandise unit he sells flows back through the TSF structure that Sauce Walka built and owns. Rizzu is another TSF artist who has appeared on high-profile projects, including Sauce Father 2, alongside Travis Scott and Lil Yachty, which means his visibility is growing at the same time as the label's profile. Fifth Ward JP brings a Houston legacy credibility to the roster that connects TSF to the city's deep musical history. Raji Diego and Sancho Saucy round out a roster that covers multiple lanes and multiple audiences simultaneously. Now in the music business, we know that a label with a functioning roster is not the same thing as an artist with a record deal. A label is a business that generates income whether or not the founder releases new music. If Sauce Walka took 6 months off tomorrow, TSF would still be operating, still developing artists, still collecting label percentages, still building the brand. That kind of passive infrastructure income is what separates artists who build businesses from artists who are the business. Sauce Walka has clearly been building toward the former for years, and the roster he assembled reflects that thinking. The cultural impact that ties all of this together is something you feel before you can even explain it. Sauce Walka is publicly credited with coining the word drip as it is used in modern hip-hop. Think about that for a second. A word that has appeared in thousands of songs, in advertising campaigns, in fashion branding, in social media captions by people who have never heard of him. That word came from his lane. That kind of cultural authorship does not show up on a balance sheet, but it absolutely contributes to brand equity in ways that are real and measurable when it comes to partnership opportunities, licensing conversations, and the weight his name carries in any business room he walks into. He said it plainly on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast when he told Gillian Wallow that he has a calculated approach to how he presents himself publicly, even admitting that he sometimes downplays his intelligence strategically to gain access to certain rooms and opportunities. That is not the statement of someone who got lucky and bought some stuff. That is the statement of someone who has been thinking about how power and perception work together since before the money arrived. And the Houston-specific advantage cannot be overstated when you look at this whole picture together. Texas has no state income tax. Houston's cost of commercial real estate is a fraction of what the same square footage would cost in Los Angeles or Miami. The city's population of over 2 million people represents a massive local consumer base for nightlife, cannabis retail, food, and entertainment. And the loyalty of the Houston community toward artists who stay and invest is a cultural reality that has real economic consequences. When Splash House opened, it was not just a club opening. It was a Houston event. When the Strip Center at 1419 South Loop West opened with Codeine Corner, it was not just a retail moment. It was a statement about what it looks like when one of the city's own comes back and plants a flag, instead of just passing through. That is what people in Houston mean when they say the name with that particular weight. That is what the ownership narrative is really about. Not paperwork, not titles, but the visible, undeniable reality that one man stayed, built, invested, and turned a Southwest Houston upbringing into a multi-layer commercial operation that generates income from music, from real estate, from nightlife, from cannabis, from digital content, from merchandise, from consumer products, from a developing artist roster, and from a video game that has not even dropped yet. That is the mind-blowing Texas empire, and it was built one piece at a time with Houston as the foundation for all of it. Now let's talk about something that audiences always want to understand when they see somebody living at this level. The relationship between what you see and what is actually underneath it. Because the cars and the jewelry and the clubs are visible. They are designed to be visible. But the real story of how Sauce Walka sustains all of that is in the parts that do not make the Instagram grid. It is in the strip center on the South Loop that generates commercial rental income in addition to housing his own businesses. It is in the OnlyFans accounts, 12 of them running simultaneously, turning a content strategy that most people treated as a joke into a six-figure per year minimum operation that has already cleared over $6 million from a single account. It is in the dispensary network that now spans over 20 locations with the THC Club brand, operating in a cannabis market that is still in its early expansion phase in Texas, and therefore positioned to grow significantly as regulations continue to evolve. It is in the label deal structures with its TSF artists that generate income from every unit of commercial activity those artists produce. The real kicker, though, is how all of these pieces protect each other. When music revenue slows down because an album cycle ends, the real estate income keeps moving. When streaming has a slow month, the nightlife business at Splash House is filling up on a Friday night regardless. When the dispensary locations have a strong week, that income offsets anything soft on the digital side. This is what diversification actually looks like in practice for an independent artist who took ownership seriously from day one. It is not theoretical, it is structural. It is built into the way the operation runs. Sauce Walka has remained rooted in Houston in a way that gives the entire empire a coherence and a cultural identity that money alone cannot buy. You cannot manufacture what he has in that city. You cannot move to Houston from somewhere else and build what he built there. The credibility is baked into the biography. Southwest Side, 2007, starting as A-Walk with Most Heard. 2014, becoming Sauce Walka and founding TSF in the same year. A decade plus of consistent presence, consistent output, consistent reinvestment, and consistent Houston energy that never wavered even when the industry would have rewarded him for sounding like something more palatable to a national mainstream audience. He never did. He stayed the course, he stayed in the city, and the city stayed with him right back. That loyalty is the foundation underneath everything else. It is what fills Splash House on weekends. It is what moves units of Ski Taste and Sauce Walka gear. It is what makes a strip center opening at 1419 South Loop West feel like a community moment instead of just a commercial transaction. And it is what will make the video game launch, when it happens, feel like a Houston event, even if people all over the world are buying it. Because everything Sauce Walka touches is coded as Houston first. That is the brand, that is the empire. And that is why when people in the city say he owns it, they mean every single word.